Britain and Turkey at the End of World War One by Emily Achter and Natalie Fanning. So first we will be discussing Great Britain and their role at the end of World War One. So they were involved in many treaties as they were one of the Allied powers. So they were involved in the Treaty of Versailles, the Treaty of Saint-Germain, the Treaty of Neuilly, the Treaty of Trianon, the Treaty of Sèvres, and the Treaty of Lausanne. But their main treaties were the Treaty of Versailles, the Treaty of Saint-Germain, and the Treaty of Sèvres. So some of the positives from these treaties vary. So for the Treaty of Versailles, the public agreed with the terms, which was different than the government, but the public very much liked them and felt that even it could be harsher, and that Germany no longer threatened world peace. The government was satisfied enough because they figured the financial reparations weren't harsh enough to stop Germany from being a potential trading partner in the future. For the Treaty of Saint-Germain, Germany was separated from Austria, so they couldn't team up again, which made Britain happy. And in the Treaty of Sèvres, they gained Palestine, which was very exciting for them because they had more area in the Middle East and more access to oil. Some negatives of this, for the Treaty of Versailles, they said it wasn't strict enough. And overall, for all three of the treaties, the government figured that they did not get as much money as they could have earned or as much land as they could have gotten. So now Britain's perspective and position. For the Treaty of Versailles, Britain was overall pretty happy with it. They figured it could have been stricter with harsher blame on to Germany. They felt that Germany would no longer be able to threaten world peace, which was good, and overall were pretty okay with it, with Germany still being able to be a potential trading partner in the future. For the Treaty of Saint-Germain, they saw it as fair because they felt that it was necessary to prevent Austria and Germany from teaming up again, which added to the no longer being able to threaten world peace. Finally, they were fairly happy with the Treaty of Sèvres because they were able to get access to Palestine, and once again, they were able to get access to the oil fields that they provided. Now, moving on to the political impacts that these treaties had on Britain as a whole. In the 1920s, British foreign policy aimed at rehabilitating Germany and bringing it up to trade. This was because they had realized the reparations on Germany had actually been way too harsh and had stunted their economy and overall not allowed them to be able to be trading partners. These efforts were heavily opposed by France, which got France and Britain to be a little bit against each other. And there was a heavy focus on foreign affairs, which caused the social situation in Britain to really decline, and there was poor housing and tons of unemployment, which was bad for their economy. The public would have liked to see many things, mostly stricter reparations on Germany, more siding with France to completely crush Germany and make them not even really their own country anymore. And they wanted to take more land and more money from basically everywhere as a whole. So for short-term impacts, it ended the war and Germany was suppressed temporarily. But in long-term impacts, it kind of affected their economy, which they were able to get out of, but they also were able to gain Palestine. And with that, they were able to not only get land and money, but to get access to oil fields, which really helped support their economy in the future. Now, moving on to Turkey.
Now, on to the treaties that Turkey was involved in. Turkey was involved in the Treaty of Sèvres and the Treaty of Lausanne. Some positives of these treaties were that the Treaty of Sèvres recognized the boundaries of an independent Turkey and it opened up the Turkish Straits between the Aegean Sea and the Black Sea for all shipping. A positive of the Treaty of Lausanne is that it prevented Turkey from being seen as the successor or a follow-up to the Ottoman Empire, which means it did not get the war blame to the extent that the Ottoman Empire would have gotten it. This relieved them of a lot of financial stress and overall made their beginnings as a nation much easier. The Treaty of Severus forced Turkey to give up parts in Arab Asia and North Africa, and the Treaty of Lausanne forced them to give up former Arab provinces. The Treaty of Severus ended up being rejected by the Turkish nationalist regime because it essentially abolished Turkish sovereignty, which the Turkish government did not like. Because of this, it ended up being replaced by the Treaty of Lausanne, and the Treaty of Lausanne was accepted because it was not quite so oppressive, and it also acknowledged that Turkey was not an official follow up for the Ottoman Empire, and because of this, Turkey did not receive all the war blame and war debt that the Ottoman Empire was seen as responsible for. The impacts of the Turkish treaties were that Turkey became an independent republic, and it was now looked at as a new country. It was not seen as a follow up to the Ottoman Empire, it was its own new country. However, they were forced to give up land in order to gain this. So, for some long term impacts, Turkey became the independent Republic of Turkey and they got a spot in the League of Nations.